all of these will be reflected, or should be reflected, in the financials of a business. And when we start looking at the financials in the second segment of this program, we'll be looking at them in a non-traditional way. The reason for that is that there are one or two flaws in traditions. Some of the ratios that are used have moved on from when they were designed back in the 19th century. So looking at the financials, we'll be starting by looking at the working capital. Working capital is the lifeblood of a business. If you don't have sufficient working capital, you go bust. If you have too much money invested in working capital, you can equally stand a chance of going bust. So working capital is critical for everything that a business does because it has a large effect on cash flows. And cash flows pay people, cover costs, and service debt. A number of famous examples in the East African region of debtors not paying, not least of which certain supermarket chains around the region. The sales have taken place, but the debtor portion of working capital has destroyed a lot of their suppliers because they were never paid. Profitability. Profitability is a book entry to a certain degree. The quality of profitability we need to understand, we need to look at. Where the profit is coming from, is it consistent, is it constant? But don't get blinded by profitability, because there are a number of ways that profits can be misquoted. Sales have become an obsession with people. People look at sales growth in a business and say, oh, they're successful because they've done these sales. Yeah, but at what price? So while sales are absolutely paramount to future success, at what cost and how are the sales made? Gearing, which is the relationship between borrowed money and the invested money of the owners of the business, needs to be looked at in a slightly different way to assess the ability to service the debt from future cash flows. Investments in fixed assets can very often be a hazard for small business. They need to consider sometimes would they be better to outsource through hiring or leasing rather than owning certain assets. But it all comes down to cash flow. Cash is king is an expression people use. I don't. Cash is not king. Cash is everything. Cash pays wages. Cash pays bills. Cash services debt. It's as simple as that. So at the end of the day, we've got to understand cash flow. We've got to understand the historic cash flow, where the business has generated money from in the past. Some forecasts, which could be produced by an accountant, usually to get a bank lending approved. And looking at the key areas that affect cash flows in the future. Because the future is what we have to focus on. The future is where a business will repay its debts from. The future is where the owners will make their money from. And they will be affected heavily by their buyers. Those buyers become sales. It's a simple equation. But we have to understand what the costs are and the profitability of the business. You will shortly undergo a quick quiz. Good luck in that, and look forward to working with you during the program. Thank you.